today we have our partners from Flexible Workforce here. I'm going to introduce those folks in a second. Both Rob and Kirk have been awesome to join this webinar today and help us out and be a phenomenal partner with this project. I just want to give you all a quick foundation of Driver Lens, really how we landed here, what it's designed to do, and then go from there. And that's a nice segue into introducing Rob and Kirk from Flexible Workforce. So a few years ago, several years ago actually, right, some of our customers in the big cities were getting some heavy competition from Uber, and at that point Uber Rush was starting to become a thing, and our customers were looking for that crowdsourced type of environment that they can use to compete, right? So there was nothing there. Unlike Uber, our customers are individual entities, right? So we worked through these things and found that there was a lot of our customers in high density areas and cities that were sharing drivers, and those drivers would be bouncing into and out of different MobileTek apps to do the work that they would need to do for both of those carriers. And so we took that experience, and the need for our customers to have a pool of drivers to pull from, how they support the IC model even more and give themselves a little bit more protection, and also lower their overall cost and spend with accelerated MobileTek, and I'll explain that as we go forward here. And with roughly 8,000 devices of MobileTek Core out there, it was a really nice way to kind of look at this as a nationwide pool of drivers that our customers can use as a potential resource. And when we're talking now, you know, several years ago, it was finding a pool of drivers, and I'm sure Rob and Kirk are going to get into that a little bit more and the need for that, but we're hearing it more and more in driver shortages and IC model misclassifications, and it's just been an ongoing thing. I mean, I've been doing this for 15 years, and many of you have been doing it a lot more than that, and you kind of know where the issues and what's going on. So we're excited about what Driver Lens can do. So what it's really designed to do here, let's see. Help for a carrier side is help them onboard drivers, reduce that onboarding and training time, remove the cost of MobileTek from the carrier going directly to the driver, providing the carriers a pooled resource of drivers to use that are already equipped with MobileTek and ready to go, and which would really drastically reduce a lot of that onboarding and training time. See where those available independent contractors are, and you know whom would be a good fit. And then also, in terms of bottom line, being able to open up and receive quotes from independent contractors. And I'll show you that in a minute, where we could take a job, several jobs, and put that across multiple drivers and receive quotes back from those drivers, in essence helping you to maybe go after the better quote, right, and increase your profit margins there. All while, excuse me, someone's asking me to speak a little louder. If you can't hear me, please let me know. All while supporting the IC model. So when we put Driver Lens in place, we went through some conversations with some third-party administrators and discussions with them. And when when Chris, our CTO, spoke with both Rob and Kirk about the project, they were excited about it. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and open your. Sorry, I'm going to open your mics there. So they were really receptive. And if you go to Flexible's website, you can really attain from that they are tech heavy. The automation is extremely important. What they're doing on the recruitment side, the misclassification side, the compliance side, and how tech heavy they are. They almost come across as a tech company that does some of that, you know, IC management. So it was a really nice fit, and we appreciate that partnership. They were the first to adopt this. And being that they're experts in this, you know, misclassification, compliance, recruiting, and even in the industry as a whole, because they're both previous owners, we were really excited to have them on board and welcome them to Driver Lens, and there's a direct integration between Driver Lens and Flexible that I'll highlight a little down the line here. But I'd like to introduce both Rob Slack and Kirk Godby from Flexible WorkForce, so they can talk with you a little bit about what they're doing and how it ties in with our project. And Rob, Kirk, take it away.
Thank you very much, Patrick, and thank you for inviting us to the webinar today. My name is Rob Slack. I'm the president of Flexible WorkForce. I was one of the original investors, and I was the president and chief operating officer of SCI before Kirk and I both left. Kirk actually worked for me as a national business development manager to start Flexible WorkForce. So we basically have been around this industry a long time. I started my first courier company at the ripe old age of 17 in 1976, and I can save you from having to pull out your calculator. Yes, I am old. So with that, we've basically gone on this venture of building what we think is the best platform for the IC management model from a settlement processing and defense and compliance piece. We were very happy to team up with Driver Lens for the front-end technology that they can give to basically get to the drivers and get the dispatches done. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kirk, and he can say hello.
Hey, thanks, Rob. Kirk Godby, I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Flexible WorkForce, and as Rob mentioned, I spent almost 5 years working with him at SCI, and we embarked on this new journey to build Flexible WorkForce. We took all of our past experience as operators and added a ton of solutions and addressed a lot of the major pain points, such as recruiting and compliance, and built the most modern platform that we could build. So we're extremely excited about it, very busy, and glad to be a part of it today.
All right, so Rob, I'm going to go ahead and start your slideshow here.
Sure. Ever since I was in you started in the courier business, I used to go into my office in the early 80s, and I would say to my dispatcher, so how many drivers are we short today? He would pull the cigarette out of his mouth and hold up his hand, and it was usually at least 5 drivers. So driver recruiting has always really been an issue with the courier companies, but today it's more of an issue than ever. I mean, historically, when we used to ask, anybody we talked to, what are their top 3 concerns? They used to always say it was classification, recruiting, and compliance. Now when we ask that same question, it's recruiting, compliance, and classification. The classification issue obviously has always been important, but lately when you see unemployment being what it is, not as many guys are running down to unemployment to file a claim, so you don't see as much activity on the classification side. I think there's been some very positive decisions with the arbitration clauses and things. So I think classification, where it'll always be an important item, has basically taken a backseat to recruiting and compliance. Next slide. Every company spends repetitive dollars chasing the same driver. Once a driver's found, can he pass an MVR background and drug test? And quite frankly, from what we see, a large percentage can't. It's when you're in a market and everybody's looking for the same driver, you're all spending the same amount of money. So everybody's spending, $1,000 with Indeed or whatever, looking for the same guy. We feel that there's a way to basically boil all this down to a single source where we can do the recruiting on everybody's behalf and save everybody an awful lot of money, and also do some of the front end screening on these guys, so you're not wasting your time with guys who just aren't going to make it anyway. So and we always do recommend doing an MVR check in advance of the background and the drug screen. So why spend the money on the background and the drug screen if he can't pass an MVR? He shouldn't be on the road anyway. So you've got an office building, it's got 50 companies, maybe you get 10 to 15 deliveries from 10 to 15 different courier companies, and they're all paying 10 to 15 drivers, 50 to 60% of the sale to do the same delivery. Doesn't it make more sense to have one sprinter or box truck go to that location and deliver one's volume? And obviously it does. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. Density is a key to success, especially on the driver side. We predict that you're going to see smart drivers start to advertise to you that they deliver to XYZ office complex 3 times a day. You know, and do you have anything for me? And my guess is these master contractors, which you'll talk about a little bit here, you know, they're going to come to the point where they're going to station people at these office complexes and basically be elevator jockeys, and they're going to make short line haul runs between your locations and those office complexes to get this done. Driver sharing and the use of master contractors is not possibly going to happen. You can take it to the bank. It's got to happen. There's no other way that we're all going to be able to operate if we don't share a pool of drivers. There just aren't enough drivers to go around. So it's something that we all have to work on. We all have to work together on. And I think, you know, the driver lens technology is a great way to, you know, start that process and get that, you know, get it rolling. When it comes to the defense, you know, the best defense for a classification challenge is multiple incomes. You know, when we can prove that a driver has multiple incomes, we are so much better off in the court case. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a trial where I'm scheduled to testify and the owner of the courier company comes up to me and says, hey, by the way, you know, I know he delivers pizzas, or I know he works for Uber, or I know he works for somebody else. Well, that's all well and good, but if I can't prove it, you know, the driver's going to get on the witness stand, and I'm not saying that drivers lie, you know, I would never go that far, but sometimes they can't quite remember exactly what they did or who they work for. So if you can't prove that multiple income stream, you know, it's a very tough road to hoe. So if you use a single administrator or TPA, such as Flexible Workforce, we can go in there and we can prove out the fact that he made money from Courier X, Courier Y, and Courier Z. And so the second best defense for a driver not feeling compelled to engage a class action attorney is because his weekly settlements far exceed the threshold of minimum wage. So when a driver is basically working for multiple companies and he can drive less miles and make more money, he's not such a great candidate to go into class action and be the downtrodden driver who's been, you know, forced to make less than poverty wages, you know, doing these deliveries for Amazon. So, you know, it's really important to get that driver's revenue up as high as we possibly can get it. So he's a happy driver. He's not going anywhere. He's going to continue to give you good service and give you good customer service to your customers. Multiple income streams make the industry, you know, much more enticing to a driver who is in this market and has lots of employment options. I mean, construction, everything is booming. So if you don't have a 4-year degree in something and you're looking for a livelihood, and you're looking at, well, you know, do I want to go be an IC driver? Do I want to go into construction? Do I want to be a warehouse worker? Do I want to run a line at a plant? We have to make the IC driver model one that really, you know, appeals to him. So his net revenue is, you know, affected by his operating costs. So if we can reduce some of those operating costs by basically condensing them all into a pool where they don't have to get occupational accident from us, and then if they're working for another courier company who's with, you know, OpenForce, they have to get their occupational accident because it's not portable. We need to try to get these drivers all into the same platform so that they can work for multiple clients without having to double pay for certain policies. So the more money he makes, the happier he's going to be, and the happier everybody's going to be. You know, Uber's probably been the best so far establishing a driver pool, you know, in hopes of someday making some money. But the driver really doesn't go home with much after expenses. I mean, Uber, you know, they do a great job of advertising and getting people involved, and for some people, it's a great way to make some extra money. We have a ton of drivers that in Flexible Workforce right now who also do Uber work, and if that makes them more money and keeps them a happier driver, well, that's great. But you know, we have to basically adopt that same model for the courier industry. You know, so we're seeing a lot of private, friendly competitor groups starting to form. If you're in a market and you get along with, you know, 8 or 9 different guys who own different companies, and right now you're already sharing work, you're all helping each other out. Putting the drivers all into a single pool where basically they can look at offers being, you know, posted up there for different things, and it's on their route, and they can pick it up and they can basically do it, and their cost is only going to be $1 or $2, and they can make 20. You know, that goes a long way. So, you know, the private groups are going to continue to grow, we think, and we really do believe that by 2020 there is going to be a national pool of courier drivers out there that are fully insured, fully vetted, passed all the tests, and are ready to be used by anybody any given time. We thank you for inviting us to the webinar. If you've got any interest in seeing the flexible workforce technology, I know I didn't really go into that at all here. Kirk is really the technology guy. I like to say that we're a beauty and brains operation, and thank God I'm so good looking. So Kirk usually takes all the technology questions. But if you'd like to see our technology, it is what we think is probably the best in the business, and we can schedule a demo for you. Or if you'd like to talk about the driver recruiting services that we offer to our clients, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about that. There's our emails right there. You can email Kirk or myself, and we'll get right back to you, and love to have a conversation with you.